Hi, good morning to you all, friends. See, this thing, Corona, has been troubling the thoughts of a lot of people. Okay, there is one thing that we have not been discussing, and that is what is the attempt of this particular going live. See, the problem with Corona is that our capacity, the healthcare capacity, is going to be overwhelmed. There is going to be a day when if there are so many patients coming once for all the population getting infected in a very short span of time. What will happen is we will not have hospital beds, we will not have enough ventilators and enough hospital capacity to take care of the people. So somebody who would have otherwise survived in a healthcare setup which is not that much overwhelmed, or which is not working to the capacity, that one will now, those people will unfortunately be succumb to the disease and die, because they could not get a ventilator, or because they could not get a hospital. For this, our strategy till now has been this. Throughout across the world, across the globe, the strategy of most governments has been to somehow flatten the curve. Flatten the curve is delay the transmission to such an extent that less and less people are affected at one particular point of time. It is not that less people are going to be eventually affected, but at one particular point of time less people are affected, so that what will happen is that the hospitals can still take care. Now, what I suggest is this is a single pronged strategy. It should not be. I think we have the capacity to do something else. That is to build capacity. The moment we talk about building capacity, I am talking about lakhs and lakhs of new beds, and lakhs of new ventilators, lakhs and lakhs of new oxygen concentrators that are supposed to be made available in a very short span of time. Before I further go into this, let me just first tell my credentials, because this is very important, because otherwise it is like going to be talking in the air. I am basically a doctor. Okay, all my career I have been a doctor, surgeon. Okay, and I have had my share of surgeries, or in the medical college, in a corporate setup. Every setup I have worked, including government setup as part of the UG and PG courses. And then the last 5 years of my life has been dedicated to technology. So we have built one of the best made in India products, that is the Balance Eye Video Nystagmography system. And I've lived technology in the last 5 years. We know what is make in India. I know exactly how much, what it takes to make equipment, how long it takes, and all these things. Now, coming to this particular point of flattening the curve. Yes, flattening the curve is very important, but what about building capacity? Can we build capacity in a short span of time? So this is where I want to tell one particular story which happened during the World War. During the World War, when US knew that they are going to be part of the war, they started thinking about different things. One of them was that they needed a four-wheel reconnaissance car. So when they realized that they need a four-wheel reconnaissance car, they just came up with a proposal. They told that they gave people a little more than 40 days to come up with a four-wheel car, okay, a prototype that can be manufactured rapidly. Now what happened is only two companies came, and then finally the company that came, today we have this legendary Jeep vehicle. The story of Jeep actually starts there. And you know how long it took for the person to make the Jeep prototype? The blueprint of the Jeep. Okay, not many, across the country only two companies came forward. One company asked a lot of time, but the other people told no, we can do it. But among them, the designer, he actually came up with the prototype, with the blueprint in 18 hours sharp. In 18 hours sharp, he came up with the blueprint of a Jeep, a vehicle that is Jeep, which was still there, not there. And then within the 42 days or whatever time, they delivered the prototype and they start mass manufacturing it. And today we know where the story of the Jeep has grown. So it is not beyond us to, if it could be done in 1940, if that can be done, we can definitely do it now. Okay, so what are the things that we need to do? What are the things we will need? Ultimately, most people will need oxygen. Most people will need oxygen, and we need to ramp up that capacity to provide oxygen. And there is the technology to fast and rapidly make oxygen concentrators in a very rapid manner. Okay, this may look like, okay, what will you do? How all these things will happen? Who will give the oxygen and all those things? If 10 years ago, if we think, to just record our temperature, we used to go to the hospital. The thermometer was only available in the hospital. Today it is a household thing. We used to go to the hospital to get a nebulization. Today nebulization is a household thing. Okay, now we may not immediately realize, but we are actually giving home-based ventilation. That is CPAP. CPAP is one mode of ventilation. So there are a lot of people who are suffering from snoring and sleep apnea who take home-based at night ventilation. That is actually CPAP is another one mode of ventilation. So that is happening as of now. So that is, it is possible. Now, the question that we have not been asking ourselves, if we have to solve these problems, we have to take a war strategy. The problem that we have all the time, we have been only thinking about flattening the curve. Yes, flattening the curve is very, very important. Social distancing is very important. Hand washing is very important. Coughing into the elbow is very important. All these things are important, but at the same time, building the capacity is very, very, very important, and that is not something that we cannot do with the kind of capacity that we have. If our car manufacturing companies or any of these fridge makers or whatever, just leave that big industrial capacity for 1.5, 2 months to be utilized only to build the hospital capacity to make these equipments, we can simply ramp up, we can make lakhs of devices very, very fast, and we can come up with protocols where. Now, who is going to use it? How they are going to use it is another question. I will give you another example of what we had during our internship. We used to have a burns ward. The burns ward used to be run. There used to be about more than 50 beds or even more than that. I don't remember the exact number, but it was huge numbers. And it used to be run by 2-3 senior doctors. The rest of the work was being done by interns. How we used to do, the senior doctor had a beautiful method. He had broken down the protocols into simple, easily followable guidelines for the interns to implement, and that is how we brought and the survival rates in the burn ward in Victoria Hospital during those days was on par, comparable with any burns center across the globe, and that is possible. So we need to. So my intention of coming here is that we need to very, very seriously start thinking about building capacity very, 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 very fast. It is possible. If we put if you want to make ventilators, I am 100% sure our people, our friends in Coimbatore who make motors, they have all the capacity, all the valves, everything that is required to make a ventilator in 1 day or 2 days. They are capable of it. Okay, it is only about we thinking in those lines and actually acting in those lines, and we can. We should make ventilators, we should make the oxygen concentrators very, very fast, so that, and we still have time. Okay, in the next 2, 3, 4 weeks, if we can build up this, ramp up this capacity, then we can really survive. In addition to that, what else we need to do is that it will be a shame on all of us if personal protective equipment go out of stock. So that should never happen, and that does not need any high technology. It is just again about ramping up production and dedicating that facility, whichever place has that capacity, identifying very, 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 very fast, and making sure that this is the war model in which we are supposed to work if we have to survive this. So that is one thing. And then there are going to be drugs that are going to be available in the next few days. We are going to have drugs. We are going to have, if the chloroquine, we are talking about hydroxychloroquine, we will have 1, 2, 3, 4 some antiviral drugs on all these things. Again, this is the time when governments need to make sure that they have already identified capacity, where the moment they identify this is the molecule that needs to be manufactured, mass manufactured in 1 week or so and so, that they can actually do it. Let me tell you from my own experience of being in technology, most of the time that gets wasted is in regulatory, is in the bureaucracies. It is not in actual developing or manufacturing the technology. We can do it. Dedicated people, if they sit together, what can be done in 1 week can be done in 24 hours. We can do it, because most of these things are within the capacity. In 1940, if somebody can come up with a Jeep full blueprint in 18 hours, and they could make the first prototype of the Jeep, a 4-wheel reconnaissance vehicle, in a little more than a month. In 2020, we can definitely do it. And most of these technology are not something new. We have them. We just need to start and believe that we can use them. As governments, if they start believing that we can actually build capacity, we will be able to build capacity. So the most important thing that I wanted to tell here is we should invest and start thinking about mass manufacturing the personal protective equipment, mass manufacturing, oxygen concentrators, mass manufacturing, ventilators, whatever it takes, and simultaneously doctors can start thinking about protocols, very, very fast certification courses, very, very fast training programs, so that there are a lot of nurses. We have huge amount of capacity of nurses who can be trained into managing any of these facilities. So the idea of coming here online this today is to make everybody think not just about flattening the curve, but also about raising the capacity. We can raise the capacity and make sure that now what is going to happen once we raise the capacity and this crisis is over. We have made a 1 lakh ventilators or 2 lakh ventilators or 3 lakh ventilators or whatever. What is going to happen to that after the crisis over? It is only going to be useful. I will tell you why. If 30 years ago you wanted to dig a well in your in a village, what used to happen is that it used to be a year or 2 years effort because we had to dig manually. Now if you want to dig a well or something, you just call one JCB and it happens in 5 minutes. In one day you can dig a big well. Okay, we can flatten land in very, very short amount of time. Why is this possible? How is it possible? It is all possible because we have built the capacity. How did we build the capacity? When the golden quadrilateral was being formed, to make the golden quadrilateral, so many of these earth moving equipment became available. The moment they are procured, now they are available for the use of the common man, for all other purposes. Similar thing is going to happen. If we use this crisis, let us never allow a crisis to go waste. If we use this crisis to build capacity, that is going to serve us for a long, long time. We have always been considered as a medically short of infrastructure country. This is one opportunity where we can actually build that infrastructure and make sure that we are going to be in one stroke a country which is medically adequate. So if you are all up to this challenge, if the government actually takes this seriously, this is within us. Within a month we can build the capacity and it is possible. I have given the example of the Jeep. I have given the example of my burns ward where people who are early in their careers could be trained to do advanced things. So it is not beyond us, and it is also our responsibility to make sure that we protect ourselves. See, if one healthcare worker across the country, even one person dies by contracting a corona infection while discharging his duty, it is an unpardonable excuse. It is an unpardonable mistake because it's a sin. Because this is a disease which can be prevented from transmission by proper personal protective equipments and protocols. So if one healthcare worker gets this disease, it actually means that we have, as a society, as a community, as we have failed in providing that personal protective equipment, and that should never happen, and that is not something that we cannot do. Okay, it is within our industry's capacity to actually do it. Thank you all for joining. Okay, thank you so much. Jai Hind, Bharat Mata ki Jai.